Do oils expire? The answer is, of course, yes, but they expire at very different rates, and it depends a lot on how they're stored. So I'm going to go through some different kinds of oils here and give my knowledge on the subject to help clear up some confusion. This is something that people often wonder about. They wonder if they should throw out old oil and whether it's old or not, and whether you can go by the date. I think people even argue about it sometimes. So we're just going to start here on the left with the very unsaturated oils. These are sometimes called polyunsaturated oils. They're known for being healthy. They also expire the fastest. And when an oil expires, it's called going rancid. And I'll get back to that in a minute. But this grapeseed oil is an example of a polyunsaturated, very unsaturated. It has a very light texture to it, and it will go bad quickly. So will flaxseed oil. That's another polyunsaturated. Safflower oil is another one. Good news is that these can be stored in the refrigerator, and they won't turn hard. So that's an option for storing these to make them last longer. And so when an oil goes bad, it's called rancidity, or becoming rancid. And the only way to tell if oil is bad is by the smell of it. And how do you tell if oil is rancid? By the smell? Well, it'll take on a kind of musty chemical smell is the best I can describe it. It's kind of like almost like a paint thinner smell, but nauseating. It's the kind of smell that once you've smelt it before really strong, you don't forget it. But it's also kind of a subtle smell. It's not always easy to tell. Sometimes restaurants that don't change their oil a lot, you can smell it. And sometimes when an oil is expiring, what will happen is that it'll get kind of a sticky residue around the top, and that's something you can tell. But the only real way to tell is to pour a little bit into a spoon from inside and just smell it. And if it smells rancid, it's either going or gone. And rancidity doesn't happen all at once, it's gradual, so there's kind of a gray area where you might want to consider it. Now, what happens if you use rancid oil? Well, rancidity is a chemical process. We're not talking about like salmonella or botulism. This isn't going to put you 6 feet under, but it could give you an upset stomach. And again, it depends on a huge number of factors, whether you're used to eating rancid oil. It's not healthy for you, it's not good. So you don't want to eat rancid oil, but it's not going to kill you. So this is olive oil. Now this is another kind of, this can absolutely go rancid, but it'll last longer than the polyunsaturated. This is still considered an unsaturated oil, but it's less unsaturated. It's closer to a saturated oil than some other oils. So we're moving in the direction of more saturated oils. As an oil becomes more saturated, more waxy, more hard, it will last longer, but it's still not immune to eventually becoming rancid. This is butter. But one thing on this, there's a lot of different kinds of oils out there. The canola oil, avocado oil, and all the nut oils are similar to olive oil. They're high oleic, so they're a little bit more rugged or a little bit more resistant to rancidity than, again, the polyunsaturated. Refined soybean would probably be about the same as this, but again, as I said, it comes down to the smell. So, and the high oleics, if you put them in the refrigerator, they're going to turn hard. So you might not want to do that, but you could put it in like a bowl and put a lid on and use it almost like margarine. Coconut oil. So this is more saturated. This is a saturated oil, but it's actually considered a very healthy saturated oil because it's medium chain, which is getting more into the chemistry of it. Because these kinds of oils are triglyceride oils. And this is actually very good quality coconut oil, extra virgin coconut oil. This will last longer. It's not immune to expiration. It can expire though. Storage matters. Storing it in the fridge will prolong its lifespan. This is butter. Butter is an animal fat, and it's considered saturated, but it also has some unsaturated. It's somewhere in the middle. It's really milk fat is what it is. Now, one thing about butter is you might think it lasts a long time. No, it doesn't, and the reason is because it has moisture in it. Butter is not a true pure oil. Like these don't have any water in them. Butter has water in it in the form of moisture. So butter absolutely does go bad. It has to be refrigerated. The salted kind. The reason why they put salt in it is to make it last longer. Now we're moving into the some plant. These are waxes actually, but we're starting to get into the realm of oils that never go bad. Beeswax. It's an animal. It comes from a bee, obviously. So it's not. It's sort of an animal wax. But it's very long-lasting, hard, waxy. Waxes tend to last a very long time, but beeswax will eventually, ultimately break down. Now, for beeswax, we're talking 1,000 years. This will absolutely outlive you. This bag will outlive any person alive today, and that's just because of its chemistry, that it has very long chain molecules. Carnauba wax. Now this is what's used in cars, and it has sun blocking, some mild SPF sun blocking properties. This absolutely, again, will outlast you. Does not go bad. Very resistant to oxidation, very resistant to chemical breakdown. Totally the opposite, totally on the opposite end of the spectrum from the food oils. Now now we have now this stuff. We're getting into the extremely long-lived oils and waxes here. This is petroleum jelly. This is baby oil. Baby oil and petroleum jelly are mineral oils, which they're not actually minerals. They're from fossils, so they come out of the earth. This stuff right here will last millions of years. Millions, literally. If I was to bury this in the ground and dig it up 1,000,000 years from now, someone was to dig it up 1,000,000 years from now, the stuff would still be the same. It can break down if it has exposure to heat and air through oxidation, but not easily. Baby oil is similar. It's a lighter. It's basically the same thing, but lighter. It's a lighter fraction of the oil. So the baby oil is another mineral oil. Very long lasting. They come out of the fossil remains. They come out of the ground. They're both gonna outlive you. One dirty trick though, and I think they do this on purpose. They put vitamin E in it. Vitamin E and fragrance, and vitamin E will break down. The fragrance could potentially break down. So what does that mean? Well, they put an expiration date on it, and I don't know if it was truly pure mineral oil, it would never go bad. And they also make a heavier version. So there's baby oil is the lightest, and there's a medium, which is the mineral oil. They sell it at the drugstore, and then there's petroleum jelly, which is heavier. This is microcrystalline wax. This is another version, another kind of fossil mineral wax. Comes from fossils. This stuff, again, millions of years. These are actually called alkane hydrocarbons. They're not a triglyceride. They don't have that. They're much more durable, and they don't break down the way that triglycerides do. This hockey puck looking thing, this is actually candle wax. It's called white wax. It's the exact same thing as candle wax, but there's different variations, and there's some that has different melting points, but there's no dye or fragrance in it. This is exactly what would be used to make a candle. It's just hasn't been processed for that. But it's this. Again, if you were to bury this, or store it at the bottom of the ocean, millions of years from now it would be exactly the same. I'm going to say that. I feel that that's right. That's correct. That it's just not going to break down. That the only thing that could break it down would be maybe sunlight could affect it, but really heat and oxygen. But it's not going to get that because it's a puck. It's heavy and it's all sealed up from the outside. It's self-contained. So if you were to take it out of the ground millions of years from now, cut it in half, the inside would never have seen air. So it would look different. It might turn yellow and stuff, but it's not going to break down. So the bottom line is that if you want to store oils away from heat and light, especially the ones, if it's a polyunsaturated, I would put it in the fridge if you have room. Heat and light, and just use your nose is basically what it amounts to. And you can't, the expiration dates, I found them not to be terribly useful. Sometimes I think they put early expiration dates on, so you have to throw it out and buy more, which isn't good. But overall, it's good to know. So that's my knowledge of the subject.